notice out. And check to make sure we are live. Yeah, we are alive and alive. Okay, gang. I think we're ready to go. Okay, let's grab the guitar and we will go. We're just finishing up our study of the Krishna book. And first we're going to chant. What are we going to chant? Okay, here's a good one. We're going to chant the Madhurashtakam by Srila Vallabhacharya. Madhuram, 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 Nayanam Madhuram, Achitam Madhuram. Madhuram, Vadanam, Madhuram, Ganam Madhuram, Achitam Madhuram. Dayam Madhuram, Manam Madhuram, Madhuradipatera Kilam Madhuram. Vachanam Madhuram, Tam Madhuram, Vajanam Madhuram, Balitam Madhuram, Vitam Madhuram, Vitam Madhuram, Madhuradipatera Kilam Madhuram. Renu Madhuro, Renu Madhura, Pani Madhura, Jam Madhuram, Sakyam Madhuram, Madhuradipatera Kilam Madhuram. Vitam Madhuram, Vitam Madhuram, Muktam Madhuram, Suptam Madhuram, Rupam Madhuram, Dilakam Madhuram, Madhuradipatera Kilam Madhuram. Kalanam Madhuram, Kalanam Madhuram, Maranam Madhuram, Mana Madhuram, Amitam Madhuram, Amitam Madhuram, Madhuradipatera Kilam Madhuram. Madhura, Mana Madhura, Yamuna Madhura, Vicha Madhuram, Janila Madhuram, Mana Madhuram, Madhuradipatera Kilam Madhuram. Madhura, Lila Madhura, Yukta Madhuram, Yukta Madhuram, Rishta Madhuram, Shishta Madhuram, Madhura Madhuradipate Rakilam Madhuram. Pamadura, Gavu Madura, Yastir Madura, Shristir Madura, Alita Maduram, Madita Maduram, Madhuradi Patera Kilam Maduram. Ataram Maduram, Adam Maduram, Yanam Maduram, Machitam Maduram. Oh, I gotta turn that off. Sorry about that. Ataram Maduram, Radam Maduram, Nayanam Maduram, Machitam Maduram, Nayam Maduram, Man Maduram, Madhuradi Patera Kilam Maduram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya Alstotela Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagadasami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaura Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Kacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So I'm going to read the translation to this poem. It's about Krishna, of course. His lips are sweet, his face is sweet, his eyes are sweet, his smile is sweet, his heart is sweet, his gait is sweet, that means he's walking. Everything is sweet about the Emperor's sweetness, his words are sweet, his character is sweet, His dress is sweet, his belly folds are sweet, his movements are sweet, his wandering is sweet, everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. His flute is sweet, his foot dust is sweet, his hands are sweet, his feet are sweet, his dancing is sweet, his friendship is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. His singing is sweet, his yellow cloth is sweet, his eating is sweet, his sleeping is sweet, his beauty is sweet, his tilak is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. His deeds are sweet, his liberating is sweet, his stealing is sweet, his love sports are sweet, his oblations are sweet, his tranquility is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. His gunjaberry necklace is sweet, his flower garland is sweet, his Jamuna river is sweet, his ripples are sweet, his water is sweet, his lotuses are sweet. Everything is sweet about the Emperor's sweetness. His gopis are sweet, his pastimes are sweet, his union is sweet, his food is sweet, his delight is sweet, his courtesy is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. His gopas are sweet, his cows are sweet, his staff is sweet, his creation is sweet, his trampling is sweet, his fruitfulness is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. That's Bellevacharya's famous Madhurashtakam. Madhuram, Madhuripater Akilam, Madhuram. There's another one. This poem is Madhuram, Madhuram. Anyway, pretty much the same thing. Okay, sorry about that. So let's go on to the Krishna book, and we're finishing up the Krishna book. I'm not sure if we'll finish it today, but we're on the 90th chapter of the Krishna book, which is the summary, basically, of Lord Krishna's pastimes. And, okay, let's share the screen. Om Gana Timiranda Shah, Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who has so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Okay, and we're going to share the screen. And where is that screen? Hold on a second. I got so many open windows here. Here it is. Okay. Right in the middle of the 89th chapter. Give me 1 second. Move the windows around. All right. In this way, Lord Krishna used to enjoy the company of his 16,000 wives. Is that where we left off? Yeah. Let me just make sure. Let's see. Just want to make sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Yes. In this way, Krishna used to enjoy the company of his 16,000 wives. Some devotees of the Lord who want to love the Supreme Personality of God in the middle of conjugal love and are elevated to the position of becoming wives of Krishna, and Krishna keeps them always attached to him by his kind behavior. Krishna's behavior with his wives, his movements, his talking with them, his smiling, his embracing, and similar other activities, which are just like those of a loving husband, kept them always very much attached to him. That is the highest perfection of life. If someone remains always attached to Krishna, it is to be understood that he is liberated and his life is successful. With any devotee who loves Krishna with his heart and soul, Krishna reciprocates in such a way that the devotee cannot but remain attached to him. The reciprocal dealings of Krishna and his devotees are so attractive that a devotee cannot think of any subject matter other than Krishna. For all the queens, Krishna was their only worshipable object. They were always absorbed in the thought of Krishna, the lotus-eyed and beautifully blackish personality of Godhead. Sometimes in thought of Krishna, they remained silent and in great ecstasy of bhava, that's emotions, and anubhava, they sometimes spoke as if in delirium, because an anubhava means a symptom of ecstasy that is voluntary. You know, they could not do it or do it according to what they want, but they decide to speak in delirium. Sometimes, even in the presence of Lord Krishna, they vividly describe the pastimes they'd enjoyed in the lake or river with him. Some of such talk is described here. Wow. This is really interesting. The queen said, Dear Kurari bird, now it is very late at night. Everyone is sleeping. The whole world is now calm and peaceful. At this time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sleeping, although his knowledge is undisturbed in any circumstances. In other words, Krishna doesn't really sleep. He rests, and it's his pastime of resting. For us, sleep means ignorance. And sometimes we may sleep because we're tired, and sometimes we may sleep because we are trying to shut off the whole world. You can't take it anymore. Sleep, escape. But then when you wake up to the same old place. It reminds me of a song in the 1960s about people going to outer space. You may leave the world for outer space, but when you come back, it's the same old place. So then, why are you not sleeping? Talking to the bird. The wife is talking to the bird. Why are you lamenting like this throughout the whole night? Dear friend, is it that you are also attracted by the lotus eyes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by his sweet, smiling, and attractive words exactly as we are? Do those dealings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead pinch your heart as they do ours? You know, pinching the heart. That's a really interesting expression. Hello, Chakravaki. Why do you close your eyes? Chakravaki is a bird. Why do you close your eyes? Are you searching after your husband who may have gone to foreign countries? I guess a female bird. Why are you lamenting so pitiably? Alas, it appears that you are very much aggrieved. Or is it a fact that you are willing to become an eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? We think that you are anxious to put a garland on the lotus feet of the Lord and then place it on your hair. So this is like almost like the gopis, but here the wives, they're speaking like as if they were addled. That means mentally disturbed, because this sign of love of God, divyon mada, transcendental madness, is somewhat similar to the madness that we see in this world, where one hears or sees something that doesn't exist. So in the material world, that's a disease. But in the spiritual realm, that's the highest ecstasy, one of the symptoms of the highest ecstasy. Oh, dear ocean, why are you roaring all day and night? Don't you like to sleep? Remember, this is in Dwarka. In Dwarka, they have the ocean right next to them. We think that you have been attacked by insomnia, or if we are not wrong, our dear Shaimashundara has tactfully taken away your gravity and power of forbearance, which are your natural qualifications. Is it a fact that for this reason you were suffering from insomnia like us? Yes, we admit there is no remedy for this disease. So in other words, when someone is immersed in Krishna consciousness, whatever one sees, one connects it with Krishna, not only from the standpoint that it's Krishna's energy, but you connect it to Krishna because you think everything is exhibiting a symptom of ecstasy. And everyone, and even inanimate entities, are exhibiting symptoms of ecstasy. This is of course, the platform of Mahabhagavad. Dear moon god, we think you have been attacked by a severe type of tuberculosis. For this reason, you are becoming thinner and thinner every day, day by day. O Lord, you are now so weak that your thin rays cannot dissipate the darkness of night. Or is it a fact that just like us, you have been stunned by the mysteriously sweet words of our Lord Shaimashundara? Is it a fact that it is because of the severe anxiety that you were so grave? So, seeing the waning moon as exhibiting symptoms of ecstasy. Here's another one. Oh, breeze from the Himalayas, what have we done to you that you are so intent on teasing us by awakening our lust to meet Krishna? Do you not know that we have already personally been injured by the crooked policy of the personality of Godhead? Dear Himalayan breeze, please know that we have already been stricken. There's no need to injure us more and more. So they're personifying all the different aspects of the material creation. Dear beautiful cloud, the color of your beautiful body exactly resembles the bodily hue of our dearmost Shyamashundara. We think, therefore, that you are very dear to our Lord, the chief of the dynasty of the Yadus, and because you are so dear to him, you are absorbed in meditation exactly as we are. We can appreciate that your heart is full of anxiety for Shyamashundara. You appear excessively eager to see him, and we see that for this reason only drops of tears are gliding down from your eyes, just as they are from ours. Dear black cloud, we must admit frankly that to establish an intimate relationship with Shyamashundara means to purchase unnecessary anxieties while we were otherwise comfortable at home. Generally, the cuckoo sounds its cooing vibration at the end of night or early in the morning. When the queens heard the cooing of the cuckoo at the end of night, they said, Dear cuckoo, your voice is very sweet. As soon as you vibrate your sweet voice, we immediately remember Shyamashundara because your voice exactly resembles his. We must frankly admit that your voice is imbued with nectar, and it is so invigorating that it is competent to bring back life to those who are almost dead in separation from their dearmost friend. So we are very much obliged to you. Please let us know how we can welcome you or how we can do something for you. The queens continued talking like that, and they addressed the mountain as follows. Dear mountain, you are very generous. By your gravity only, the whole crust of this earth is properly maintained. Although because you are discharging your duties very faithfully, you do not know how to move. Because you are so grave, you do not move hither and thither, nor do you say anything. Rather, you always appear in a thoughtful mood. It may be that you are always thinking of a very grave and important subject matter, but we can guess very clearly what you are thinking of. We are sure that you are thinking of placing the lotus feet of Shyamashundara on your raised peaks, as we want to place his lotus feet on our raised breasts. Dear dry rivers, we know that because this is the summer season, all your beds are dry and you have no water. Because all your water has now been dried up, you are no longer beautified by blooming lotus flowers. At the present moment, you appear very lean and thin, so we can understand that your position is exactly like ours. We have lost everything due to being separated from Shyamashundara, and we no longer hear his pleasing words. Our hearts no longer work properly, and therefore we also have become very lean and thin. Now remember, at the beginning of this description, Srila Prabhupada writes that this is all going on in front of Krishna. In other words, they're feeling separation from Krishna, and I guess Krishna may be even listening to this. We think, therefore, that you are just like us. You have turned lean and thin because you are not getting any water from your husband, the ocean, through the clouds. The example given herewith by the queens is very appropriate. The riverbeds become dry when the ocean no longer supplies water through the clouds. The ocean is supposed to be the husband of the river, and therefore is supposed to support her. Unless a woman is supported by her husband with the necessities of life, she also becomes as dry as a dry river. Unless she's Krishna conscious, then no one becomes dry. One queen addressed the swan as follows. My dear swan, please come here, come here. You are welcome. Please sit down and take some milk. My dear swan, can you tell me if you have any message from Shyamashundara? I take you to be a messenger from him. If you have any such news, please tell me. Our Shyamashundara is always very independent. He never comes under the control of anyone. We have all failed to control him, and therefore we ask you, is he keeping himself well? I may inform you that Shaimashundra is very fickle. His friendship is always temporary. It breaks even by slight agitation. But would you kindly explain why he is so unkind to me? Formerly he said that I alone am his dearmost wife. Does he remember this assurance? Anyway, you are welcome. Please sit down, but I cannot escape your entreaty to go to Shaimashundra. When he does not care for me, why should I be mad after him? I am very sorry to let you know that you have become the messenger of a poor-hearted soul. You were asking me to go to him, but I am not going. What is that? You talk of his coming to me. Does he desire to come here to fulfill my long expectation for him? All right, you may bring him here, but don't bring with him his most beloved goddess of fortune. Do you think that he cannot be separated from the goddess of fortune even for a moment? Could he not come here alone without Lakshmi? His behavior is very displeasing. Does it mean that without Lakshmi, Shaimashundra cannot be happy? Can he be happy with any other wife? Does it mean that the goddess of fortune has the ocean of love for him and none of us can compare to her? So this is all transcendental. I remember one time there was one lady who joined the movement and she was complaining about Krishna being with Radharani. She said, why is Krishna being with Radharani? Why doesn't he come to me? That was not transcendental. That was envy. But in this particular case, it's transcendental. All the wives of Lord Krishna were completely absorbed in thought of him. Krishna is known as Yogeshwara, the master of all yogis, and all the wives of Krishna at Dwarka used to keep this Yogeshwara within their hearts. Instead of trying to be the master of all yogic powers, it is better if one simply keeps the supreme Yogeshwara Krishna within his heart. Thus one's life can become perfect, and one can very easily be transferred to the kingdom of God. It is to be understood that all the queens of Krishna who lived with him at Dwarka were in their previous lives very greatly exalted devotees who wanted to establish a relationship with Krishna in conjugal love. Thus they were given the chance to become his wives and enjoy a constant loving relationship with him. Ultimately, they were all transferred to the Vaikuntha planets. So what was I was going to mention something about this. What was I going to mention? Oh, yes. So sometimes a yogi wants great power, mystic powers, or even an impersonalist, he wants to become God, but a devotee, he becomes better than God. He can control God by his devotions. So which is better? To be God, and that's a big headache. Who wants to be God? But to actually have this reciprocal relationship with Krishna, not to control him for sense gratification, but control him out of love, and then Krishna controls you out of love, back and forth, back and forth. It's such a wonderful thing to look forward to. Supreme Absolute Truth, personality of God is never impersonal. All the Vedic scriptures glorify the transcendental performance of his various personal activities and pastimes. It is said in the Vedas and in the Ramayana, only the activities of the Lord are described. Everywhere in the Vedic literature his glories are sung. As soon as soft-hearted people, such as women, hear those transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, they immediately become attracted to him. Soft-hearted women and girls are therefore very easily drawn to the Krishna conscious movement. One who is thus drawn to the Krishna conscious movement and tries to keep himself, it's interesting, Prabhupada says himself, when he was just previously talking about girls and women. So anyway, in constant touch with such consciousness, certainly gets the supreme salvation going back to Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. If simply by developing Krishna consciousness, one can be transferred to the spiritual world, one can simply imagine how blissful and blessed were the queens of Lord Krishna, who talked with him personally and saw Lord Krishna face to face. No one can properly describe the fortune of the wives of Lord Krishna. They took care of him personally by rendering various transcendental services, like bathing him, feeding him, pleasing him, and serving him. Thus, no one's austerities can compare to the service of the queens at Dwarka. So also we should understand that if we're engaged in deity service, we're doing the same thing. It's like training to go back to the spiritual world. You're cooking for Krishna, you're dressing Krishna, you're bathing Krishna, feeding him, pleasing him. I mean, it's pretty amazing that Srila Prabhupada has allowed us to engage in this much exalted activity. Shukadeva Goswami informed Maharaj Parikshit that for self-realization, the austerities and penances performed by the queens of Dwarka have no comparison. The objective of self-realization is one, Krishna. Therefore, although the dealings of the queens with Krishna appear just like ordinary dealings between husband and wife, the principal point to be observed is the queen's attachment for Krishna. The entire process of austerity and penance is meant to detach one from the material world and enhance one's attachment to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the shelter of all persons advancing in self-realization. As an ideal householder, he lived with his wives and performed the Vedic rituals just to show less intelligent persons that the Supreme Lord is never impersonal. Krishna lived with his wives and children in all opulence exactly like an ordinary conditioned soul, just to teach those souls who are actually conditioned that they must enter into the family circle of Krishna, where he is the center. That's very interesting. For example, the members of the Yadu dynasty lived in the family of Krishna, and Krishna was the center of all their activities. That's a very interesting realization that Prabhupada has given us here. That Krishna, in his family life, has shown what it means to live within the greater family of the Krishna conscious movement, the greater family of Krishna, the greater family of devotees. So, there's all sorts of relationships. It's all personal. That's pretty cool. So, it's not that everyone has to get married per se, but we should all be part of this family of devotees, and that's called satsanga. Renunciation is not as important as enhancing one's attachment to Krishna. The Krishna conscious movement is especially meant for this purpose. So when one gets attached to Krishna, then automatically Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahaitakam. Automatically one gets detached from the world. The higher taste, the higher pleasure. You don't have to try separately to give up anything, because automatically when taking up Krishna, taking up the service of Krishna, everything else pales in comparison. Whoops, went a little too far here. We are preaching the principle that it does not matter whether a man is a sannyasi or grahasta, householder. One simply has to increase his attachment for Krishna, and then his life is successful. Following in the footsteps of Lord Shri Krishna, one can live with his family members or within the society or nation, not for the purpose of indulging in sense gratification, but to realize Krishna by advancing in attachment for him. There are 4 principles of elevation from a conditioned life to the life of liberation, which are technically known as Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. These are 4 Purusharthas, it's called. Religion, economic development, sense grad, and liberation, because liberation occurs when you get frustrated with the rest of them, especially with sense grad. Sense grad is so frustrating. It shortens your lifespan. It's you got to pay for it, where they say pay to play. It's just like, wow, it's not worth it. It's a little scratching. And you can have spiritual sense grad. Of course, in the beginning, spiritual sense grad means eating nice prasadam, hearing nice music. Now, of course, you always eat nice prasadam and hear nice music. But at least in the beginning, you may be thinking of your own enjoyment utilizing those particular activities. But in the end, you'll actually be thinking of Krishna's enjoyment while you're taking prasadam, or you're dancing and chanting and everything like that. If one lives a family life following the footsteps of Lord Krishna's family members, One can achieve all four of the principles of success simultaneously by making Krishna the center of all activities. It is already known to us that Krishna had 16,108 wives. All these wives were exalted, liberated souls, and among them Queen Rukmini was the chief. After Rukmini, there were 7 other principal wives, and the names of the sons of these 8 principal queens have already been mentioned. Besides the sons born of these 8 queens, Lord Krishna had 10 sons by each of the other queens. Thus, altogether, Krishna's sons numbered 16,108 times 10. That's 161,080. Someone got it. That's a lot of sons. One should not be astonished to hear that Krishna had so many sons. One should always remember that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he has unlimited potencies. He claims all living entities as his sons. So the fact that he had 161,080 sons attached to him personally should be no cause for astonishment. Yeah, because we're all being maintained by Krishna. We're all Hambija Pradapita. Krishna is the seed-giving father of everyone. Among Krishna's greatly powerful sons, 18 sons were Maharathas. The Maharathas could fight alone against many thousands of foot soldiers, charioteers, cavalry, and elephants. The reputations of these 18 sons are very widespread and are described in almost all the Vedic scriptures. The 18 Maharatha sons are listed as Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Diptiman, Bhanu, Samba, Maru, Purirbhanu, Chitravanu, Vrikal, Aruna, Pushkara, Vidabahu, Shrutadeva, Sunandana, Chitrabahu, Virupa, Kavi, and Yagroda. Of these 18 Maharatha sons of Krishna, Pradyumna is considered the foremost, of course. Pradyumna is the son of Rukmini. Pradyumna happened to be the eldest son of Queen Rukmini, and he inherited all the qualities of his great father, Lord Krishna. He married the daughter of his maternal uncle Rukmi, and from that marriage Aniruddha was born. Aniruddha was so powerful that he could fight against 10,000 elephants. Woo. He married the granddaughter of Rukmi, the brother of his grandmother Rukmini. Because the relationship between these cousins was distant, such a marriage was not uncommon. Aniruddha's son was Bhadra. When the whole Yadu dynasty was destroyed by the curse of the Brahmanas, only Bhadra survived. Bhadra had one son whose name was Pratibahu. The son of Pratibahu was named Subbahu, and the son of Subbahu was named Shantasena, and the son of Shantasena was Shatasena. Another point about Bhadra, that Bhadra was actually assigned the territory of Mathura Vrindavan, and he was the one who actually installed, installed and arranged for the deities all over Braj. And the deities all over Braj were actually made of very black stone called Bhadra. I think Bhadra just like his name. And these black stone deities, some of them are still there in Braj today, and some of them were transported other places when the Muslims attacked Vrindavan. So I remember one of my favorite deities is the deity of Lord Nrsingadev that he installed at the tail of Govardhan. That's Ugra Nrsinga. And we visit that temple whenever we go to Govardhan. So that's Bhadra, the grandson, and he actually established the different places of Lord Krishna's pilgrimage when he went there too. There's this whole story when he went to Vrindavan. He had a kirtan, and Krishna and his associates all appeared during the kirtan, and they disappeared after the kirtan was over. It is stated by bkgoswami that all the members of the Yadu dynasty had many children, just as Krishna had many sons and grandsons and great-sons. Not great sons, but great-grandsons. Each one of the kings named here also had similar family extensions. Not only did all of them have many children, but all were extraordinarily rich and opulent. None of them were weak or short-lived, and above all the members of the Yadu dynasty were staunch devotees of the Brahminical culture. It is the duty of the Kshatriya kings to maintain the Brahminical culture and protect the qualified Brahmanas, and all these kings discharged their duties rightly. The members of the Yadu dynasty were so numerous that it would be very difficult to describe them all, even if one had a duration of life of many thousands of years. Srila Shukadeva Goswami informed Maharaj Pariksit that he heard from reliable sources that simply to teach the children of the Yadu dynasty, there were as many as 38,800,000 tutors or acharyas. Woo. If so many teachers were needed to educate their children, one can simply imagine how vast was the number of the family members. As for the military strength, it is said that King Ugrasena alone had 10 quadrillion soldiers as personal bodyguards. Wow. Before the advent of Lord Krishna within this universe, there were many battles between the demons and the demigods. Many demons died in the fighting, and they all were given the chance to take birth in high royal families on this earth. Because of their royal exalted posts, all these demons became very much puffed up, and their only business was to harass their subjects. Lord Krishna appeared on this planet just at the end of Dwapara Yuga to annihilate these demoniac kings. Of course, Krishna killing all these demons is mentioned, the story of Krishna killing all these demons is mentioned in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they took shelter in kingly families on the earth planet. And that's why Krishna had to appear and wipe them all out. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Parichanaya Saranam Vinashaya Chaduskritam, Bhagavad Gita 4.8, the Lord comes to protect the devotees and annihilate the miscreants. Some of the demigods were asked to appear on this earth to assist in the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. When Krishna appeared, he came in the association of his eternal servitors, but some of the demigods also were requested to come down to assist him. And thus they took their births in the Yadu dynasty. The Yadu dynasty had 101 clans in different parts of the country. All the members of these different clans respected Lord Krishna in a manner befitting his divine position, and all of them were his devotees, heart and soul. Thus all the members of the Yadu dynasty were very opulent, happy, and prosperous, and they had no anxieties. Well, like to be Krishna's family member. Because of their implicit faith and devotion to Lord Krishna, they were never defeated by any other kings. Their love for Krishna was so intense that in their regular activities, in sleeping, sitting, traveling, talking, sporting, cleansing, bathing, they were simply absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and paid no attention to bodily necessities. That is a symptom of a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. Just as when a man is fully absorbed in some particular thought, he sometimes forgets his other bodily activities. Just like if someone is in love, then they forget about everything. They forget about going to work, they forget about how to drive their cars, they forget everything, and that's crazy. Nunam pramata kurate bhikarma yalindriya priti aprinoti. Actually, Lord Rishabhadev describes that one considers sense gratification to be so dear to one, he becomes mad, still more mad. The members of the Yadu dynasty acted automatically for their bodily necessities, but their actual attention was always fixed on Krishna. Their bodily activities were performed mechanically, but their minds were always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Srila Shukadeva Goswami has concluded the 90th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by pointing out 5 particular excellences of Lord Krishna's. The first excellence is that before Lord Krishna's appearance in the Yadu dynasty, the river Ganges was known as the purest of all things. Even impure things could be purified simply by touching the water of the Ganges water. The super excellent power of the Ganges water was due to its having emanated from the toe of Lord Vishnu. But when Lord Krishna, the Supreme Vishnu, appeared in the family of the Yadu dynasty, he traveled personally throughout the kingdom of the Yadus, and by his intimate association with the Yadu dynasty, the whole family not only became very famous, but also became more effective in purifying others than the water of the Ganges. Also, it's mentioned that a moment's association with a pure devotee is more valuable than repeated bathings in the Ganges River. The next excellence of Lord Krishna's appearance was that although he apparently gave protection to the devotees and annihilated the demons, both the devotees and the demons achieved the same result. Lord Krishna is the bestower of 5 kinds of liberation, of which Sayuja Mukti, that's what merging. or the liberation of becoming one with the Supreme was given to demons like Kamsa, whereas the gopis were given the chance to associate with him perpetually or personally. The gopis kept their individuality to enjoy the company of Lord Krishna, but Kamsa was accepted into his impersonal Brahmajyoti. In other words, both the demons and the gopis were spiritually liberated, but because the demons were enemies and the gopis were friends, the demons were killed and the gopis protected. The third excellence of Lord Krishna's appearance was the goddess of fortune, who was worshipped by demigods like Lord Brahma, Indra, and Chandra, remained always engaged in the service of the Lord, even though the Lord gave more preference to the gopis. Lakshmiji, the goddess of fortune, tried her best to be on an equal level with the gopis, but she was not successful. The reason she was not successful is she was attached to her opulent mode of worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why she was not successful. She was not ready to just like let her hair down, figuratively. Nevertheless, she remained faithful to Krishna, although she generally does not remain in one place, even if worshipped by demigods like Lord Brahma. The fourth excellence of Lord Krishna's appearance concerns the glories of his name. It is stated in the Vedic literature that by chanting the different names of Lord Vishnu 1,000 times, one may be bestowed with the same benefits as by thrice chanting the holy name of Lord Rama. And by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna only once, one receives the same benefit. Wow, as 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu or 3 times Rama's name. In other words, all the holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, including Vishnu and Rama, the holy name of Krishna is the most powerful. The Vedic literature therefore specifically stresses the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. What is that? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya introduced this chanting of the holy name of Krishna in this age, thus making liberation much more easily obtainable than in other ages. In other words, Lord Krishna is more excellent than his incarnations, although all of them are equally the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we described. The fifth excellence of Lord Krishna's appearance is that he established the most excellent of all religious principles by his one statement in the Bhagavad Gita, that simply by surrendering unto him, 1866, one can discharge all the principles of religious rites. In the Vedic literature, there are 20 kinds of religious principles mentioned, and each of them is described in different shastras. But Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen conditioned souls of this age that he personally appeared and asked everyone to give up all kinds of religious rites and simply surrender unto him. It is said that this age of Kali is 3/4 devoid of religious principles. Hardly 1/4 of the principles of religion are still observed in this age. That's the truthfulness. But do you read the news? It is all gone, practically speaking, now. But by the mercy of Lord Krishna, not only has this void of Kali Yuga been completely filled, but the religious process has been so easy that simply by rendering transcendental loving service unto Lord Krishna, by chanting his holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, one can achieve the highest result of religion, namely being transferred to the highest planet within the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. Considering all this, one can immediately appreciate the benefit of Lord Krishna's appearance on this earth and understand that his giving relief to the people of the world by his appearance was not at all extraordinary. Srila Shukadeva Goswami thus concludes his description of the super exalted position of Lord Krishna by glorifying him in the following way. O Lord Krishna, all glory is unto you. You are present in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Therefore you are known as Jananivasa, one who lives in everyone's heart, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvarasa Rabhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati. That's Bhagavad Gita 1861. The Supreme Lord, in his Paramatma feature, lives within everyone's heart. But this does not mean, however, that Krishna has no separate existence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosophers accept the all-pervading feature of Parabrahman, but when Parabrahman, the Supreme Lord, appears, they think that he appears under the control of the material nature. Because Lord Krishna appeared as the son of Devaki, the Mayavadi philosophers accept Krishna to be an ordinary living entity who takes birth within this material world. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami warns them, Devaki Janma Vada, which means that although Krishna is famous as the son of Devaki, Actually, he is the super soul or the all-pervading supreme personality of Godhead. The devotees, however, take this word Devaki Janmavada in a different way. The devotees understand that actually Krishna was the son of Mother Yashoda. Although Krishna first appeared as the son of Devaki, he immediately transferred himself to the lap of Mother Yashoda, and his childhood pastimes were blissfully enjoyed by Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. This fact was admitted by Vasudeva himself when he met Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda at Kurukshetra. He admitted that Krishna and Balaram were actually the sons of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Vasudeva and Devaki were only their official father and mother. Their actual father and mother were Nanda and Yashoda. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami describes Lord Krishna as Devaki Janma Vada. Let's see how much more we have. See if we can finish this chapter. No, it's quite a bit. Yeah, so we'll have to have another day of this chapter, which is fine. It's all Krishna Katha. So, anyway, so we'll end now and take some questions from you all. Stop sharing. Allow you to, hold on a second, unmute yourselves. We're just finishing up. I think tomorrow we'll probably finish up the Krishna book. And we'll all decide together what book to go on to next. How's that sound? Okay, so who has a question? You can unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand, or you can type in the chat window. Someone is Rishikesh.
Hare Krishna Gurudev. My obeisance is Gurudev.
Haribol.
I
So what's up?
Yeah, my question was about this Vajranab, is he coming from which line, Gurudev? Aniruddha, Pradyumna,
Yes.
Sudarsana, which?
Yeah, Pradyumna Aniruddha. He's Krishna's great grandson.
His father was Aniruddha?
Yeah, his father was Aniruddha.
Okay. Just curious to know that.
Yeah, his father was Aniruddha, and he's Krishna's great grandson. And he was the one who was sent to Mathura because the Dwarka wasn't there anymore. After Krishna left this planet, Dwarka was inundated by a flood. And it's an interesting story about when Krishna left the planet. He asked Arjuna to protect. Someone asked a question. I'm going to answer that in a second. I was just looking at the question. He asked Arjuna to protect his wives, and guess what? As they were being protected by Arjuna and they were leaving Dwarka, the flood was just going right before them. And then they were attacked by a band of cowards. Not cowards, cowards. And those cowards kidnapped Krishna's wives. And Arjuna's Gandiva bow and all of his weapons were useless. And Arjuna barely escaped with his own life. So Krishna's wives were kidnapped. Now, how did that happen? Well, an interesting story. That in a previous life, the ladies who had become the wives of Krishna, that is, the ones who just joined Krishna's pastimes at that point, they got the blessing from Astavakra Muni to get Krishna as their husband. But then when they looked at Astavakra Muni, because Astavakra Muni's body was bent in like 8 different ways, in 8 different ways when it was bent, they started laughing at him. And so he got really angry. You're laughing at this body. Not a good idea, Prabhus. And so when they laughed at him, he got angry and he cursed them. He said, you may be married to Krishna, but you're going to be kidnapped by some dacoits. And they just felt really bad about it. You know, when you're cursed by a sage, you beg for forgiveness. Obviously, you don't just say, well, it's my karma. You beg for forgiveness. He said, well, you'll be kidnapped by dacoits, but you rejoin Krishna. So those dacoits were all expansions of Krishna. And actually, not all the wives were kidnapped. There were actually some of them that were not kidnapped, and they joined Bhadra, when he went to Vrindavan later on. Why only Braja? Bajra. That's not Braja. It's Braja. Bajra. Actually, there were other Yadus. In general, they all died. The ones that were demigods, they basically killed each other in this conflagration where they got drunk and they hit each other with these canes that were like metal poles. But many of them remained alive. He wasn't the only one. I mean, Uddhava, he was still there. And there were other ones too. They were still there. So, but in general, there were very few. That's the point. Hmm. And the ones that were Krishna's eternal associates, generally they remained. But some of them killed each other too, like Prajuna, Aniruddha. They just wiped each other out. That's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how they killed each other off. And this was actually the Lord's plan to continue to relieve the burden of the world. Because when the world was overburdened by demons, they had to be brought in. But after that, if you have this whole army of the Yadus, that's like Krishna's transcendental army, and the army just stays without anyone to fight with, it's like a burden as you got the burden of the earth. So Krishna had to relieve that particular burden. So that was the question. Vajra. Vajra was allowed to live. Some of Krishna's queens, like Rukmini, wasn't one of the ones kidnapped by those dacoits. Nor was Satyabhama kidnapped at that particular point. And some of the queens went with Bhadra to Vrindavan, and they participated in trying to establish, not just trying, but in establishing the different holy places of Krishna in Braj. There's Braj and Bhadra. Okay. Good question. Okay. So, who else has a question? Questions, comments? Adandavat Pranam. Krishna had 16,100, 16,000, actually got a little, 16,000, 161,080 sons. Did Krishna not have daughters? Yes, he had daughters. More sons than daughters. But Krishna also had daughters. Krishna likes the ladies too. Who was the last Yadu alive? What do you mean? I mean, there may be some descendants of the Yadu dynasty alive today. I mean, it was funny when I first joined the movement. This is not true. Don't quote me on this. But when I first joined the movement, the devotees would tell me that I was very lucky because I was a descendant of the Yadu dynasty. And I said, what do you mean by a descendant of the Yadu dynasty? So, well, the word Yadu later became transformed into Jew. Yadu, Judu, like that. Judea, which is Israel. So the Jewish people are members of the Yadu dynasty. So I may be the last Yadu alive. I don't know. So no, but there were descendants of the Yadu dynasty. I mean, Vajra was married, and there are descendants, just like it's described. Vajra had a son. He had a son. I don't remember the names we just read, but there was a son after that, and a son after that. So not that they were celibates. So there's plenty of Yadus still around. And actually, there's a clan in India where they call themselves the Yadus. It's interesting.
Oh, they have very bad politicians.
I know. They're bad.
One famous is Lalu Prasad Yadav.
Yeah, they're in Bihar, right?
Yeah, it's Bihar. Yeah, he's one of the most notorious politicians.
Yeah. Yes, that's a clan in India. They call themselves the Yadus, and they're generally in Bihar, and Bihar is a criminal state. So that I don't know if they're actually descendants of the Yadu dynasty, but they call themselves the Yadus. Interesting fact. Okay, so tomorrow we will continue. Hopefully, we'll end the Christian book, and then we'll all decide together what book.
बैठा जाए ऐठा जाए
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bolo Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण महाराज
Hare Krishna. We're praying for you, Raj.
oh I'm just going down slowly
Krishna is taking care of you.
Hare
I am wanting to go to Krishna for once and all.
Yes. Krishna will take you, and you will be with Krishna. And when you go to Krishna, you can say a few words for me. Tell him I'm.
Thank you. I will do that.
All right, just keep chanting and keep the holy name with you 24 hours a day. That's the main thing. Just always be hearing Krishna's name, and then everything will be taken care of by Krishna.
Thank you, Gurudev.
All right, Hare Krishna.
God bless you.
Hare Krishna.
God bless you. Krishna bless you. Hare Krishna. Radharani bless you.
Jai. Thank
Okay, so we have to end. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada.